Here I am on my Azure portal. Let's start by creating the function app. I will click on the marketplace option, then I will search for functions app. Okay, I can see the service. I will click on it and then we will create it. Now, if you see, we have some plans here that we discussed, like consumption plan, premium, and app service. There are other plans like container, apps, environment. So if you're looking to have a containerized solution, then you can go with it. Otherwise, for the sake of this tutorial, we will go with consumption plan. So we will be charged only when our code is running. I'm going to select the consumption plan. Then, okay, let's create a new resource group here. I will name it as let's say AZ function. Okay, then I have to name let's name it as first functions app test1 runtime stack. Here you select the language that your code will be running in. So for our instance, it will be PowerShell core, but if you're a developer, you can choose any of these languages. All right, at the bottom, okay, we also need to select region. So our closest is Central India. I will select that, and then operating system will be Windows. Let's click on next. Okay, we need to have a storage account. I'm fine with this. Storage account name, next. Public access, that's fine. Okay, so under monitoring we have application insights. If you're interested in like monitoring the performance, also troubleshooting, then you can enable application insights. It is also chargeable, so for this tutorial I'll say no and click on next. I don't need continuous development, deployment. I have not like integrated any GitHub account there, so it's no use for me. Tags, I'm not interested. Then let's create this function. Alright, so I will pause the video until the deployment is going on. Deployment got succeeded. Let's go to the resource. Alright, so our function app is created, or let's say that we have the Azure function. Under this Azure functions, we can create multiple apps, okay, or multiple functions. So I will click on this button called create function at the bottom, and once I click on it, it gives me a list of templates that I can choose from. So if you remember when I was explaining that the types of trigger, right? You see here HTTP trigger, timer trigger, and there are blob storage trigger. So depending upon your requirement, you can select one of these. Okay, we'll start by creating a HTTP trigger. I'll name it as test HTTP trigger. Okay, now there is something called authorization level. Okay, it is nothing but keys. Okay, let's understand these one by one. So first one is the function key, which means that there will be, if I want to trigger it, okay, I want to use the HTTP method in order to trigger this, in order to call this particular function, then I will be required to have a key. Okay, that is the function key. The second is anonymous, which means that your function is open. Okay, if somebody has the URL, they can invoke this. Okay, and they don't require a key. The last one is admin, which is basically the master key. The difference between function key and admin is that function key will only run for this particular functions that I'm creating, test HTTP trigger, but the admin key will have the root access. Okay, root access to this function app that we have created, and you can do anything you want. You can call any function that you want. Okay, so we will go with function key here. Okay, now this function is created, and if you see this Azure, okay, it gives us a template. Okay, this is a PowerShell template. Let's understand this. I will zoom in a bit. Okay, don't think it's working. 1 second. Okay, all right. So first, it is using a .NET namespace called system.net. Okay, and there are two parameters, request and trigger metadata. Okay, request is anything that I will be sending, okay, in the body while calling this function. Okay, so it is expecting a name, right? If you see from the request, it is expecting a name, and in request, okay, there could be a query in the header, or there could be a JSON body. So what it's doing, it's checking in both sides, whether there could be a name in the query or there could be a name in the body. Okay, and if that's the case, then assign this body variable some value here. Okay, otherwise on line number 15 there is a default value to this body variable, but if I am passing a name, then on line number 18 the body parameter, or sorry, the body variable will be updated to this particular string. Okay, otherwise if there is no name, then the default is this line number 15. Okay, it's just saying that. Now there's something called triggered metadata. Okay, now trigger metadata is nothing, just some additional information about the HTTP request, like what if the the type of method, whether it is a get method, it's a post method, okay, that type of thing. So that information, that additional information will be contained in trigger metadata. Okay, it also gives us an option to run this code. Okay, now if you see HTTP method, I can say post. Okay, now if you see, I have a query parameter, right? And what it is expecting is, in the query it's expecting a name. So I will say name and I will give it a value. Let's say I will give it my name. Okay, next I will run this. Okay, I'm not passing anything in the body. By the way, this body is the JSON type of body. Okay, if we will be using body, then in this format we will need to pass our parameters. I will delete this, zoom out, and this is what we have at the moment, which is name Raman. I'll run it. Okay, so my HTTP request, it triggered the our function here, which is test HTTP trigger, and if you see, it did receive something in the query in line number 10. I passed in the request, in the query I passed a name right here. So the variable on line number 18, it got updated hello, which will be my name, and then the HTTP triggered function executed successfully, which I can also see in the output. But how did I get the output, right? Let's understand that. There is a PowerShell commandlet in PowerShell called push outbinding here, this particular piece. Okay, so push outbounding output binding is the command that I will use to respond to the HTTP request. Okay, so I have the name, which is response, the value, and then the status code. The important part in this push dash output binding is two things. One is status code and one is body. Okay, now what I'm passing in the body is this line number 18. Okay, or it could be line number 15 also. Let's say that I do not pass any name, which I will show you. Okay, now on line number 23 I can see the status code. Okay, now HTTP status code is okay, it is HTTP code 200. Okay, and let's say that based on your requirement, if you don't want that, okay, let's say that some conditions are not met and you want to pass, let's say, a conflict or something, or an error type of thing, then you can just remove this and type conflict here. Okay, so there will be a status code will be changed according to that. Okay, we will talk about this more in the another video. Okay, but just to give you another example, let's say that if we try to run it again, I can also use function key or default any key that I want. Let's say function key. Then just look at the status code. Okay, now the status code or the response code is 200. Okay, all right. So this is how you can create a function and pass in the query parameter or the the body. In the body, like a JSON you can pass, and then you can get your desired output. Now if we use let's say a body or something, okay, let's say I will delete it. It won't work right now. Okay, let's try to pass in a JSON body. So I will say name equals name equals Raman. Okay, if you see this HTTP method, okay, what did it do? Okay, in the body I did not get any name. So there is some issue with the code that we will see how we can fix, because if you see the response is line number 15, it did not receive any name at line number 12. Obviously on line number 10 we are not passing anything in the query. On line number 12 we did pass a name, it did not received it, and on line number 15 this is the default value of the variable got set, and which is we also got in the output. Okay, so in the next tutorial or next video I will let you know how you can use your JSON body in order to get the result.